Oil is at $105 a barrel. Russia is basically trying to break the back of Europe by now messing with their nat gas supplies. The German energy minister yesterday said that if that happens, it could be a contagion equivalent to Lehman Brothers with respect to energy. You're already starting to see food riots, food insecurity, energy insecurity, rampant inflation, sovereign defaults. And you have to ask yourself, like, how are we going to really tourniquet this whole thing and prevent a much bigger contagion like Freeberg just talked about? If Russia decides to play hardball against Europe or America, we better hope that it's a mild winter, because very quickly you can go from plus 1 million barrels to minus 2 in a heartbeat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have billionaire investor Chamath on the All In podcast, giving his take on the future of the economy and on financial markets around the globe. America has been trying to find its balance for the past 5 quarters, and what stable economic growth looks like is unknown. Chamath also discusses the growing economic crisis in Europe and what mistakes were made that caused the collapse we're seeing now. The concerns surrounding financial markets is also on the forefront as more and more people start to panic. He says that people are being fixated by chart numbers without understanding fundamental statistics. Chamath has been waiting to see how many quarters it will take to return to an on-trend growth system. Let's check out Chamath on the All In podcast as he shares his concerns about the financial imbalance and where we're headed next. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
The Middle East plus United States, the best job possible to basically get the maximum demand so that there's as much energy as possible. The reasons that Europe are in an energy crisis really should be discussed honestly. So number one, an entire continent essentially allowed a 16-year-old girl to dictate their energy policy. And when Greta Thunberg was able to shame an entire continent into basically walking away from nuclear and not really evaluating how you can actually have energy independence, what they did was they put Europe in an incredibly fragile position. And at the beginning of this war, it wasn't clear how much damage the lack of Russian energy would do to the European economy. But now it's absolutely clear. The real lesson is that in all of our haste to basically overtly judge Trump because of his delivery and his personal style or whatever, we ran towards a 16-year-old person who has no rooting in science or technology to dictate the energy policy of an entire continent. I mean, she was nominated for a Nobel Prize. Just to remind you guys, this is how insane all of these people were. So in an effort to virtue signal to the hilt and beyond, what we essentially did, what the entire world did, was turn a blind eye to science and turn a blind eye to mathematics and simple understanding of supply and demand. And so now you have this situation where the entire continent of Europe is probably on the precipice of, at the minimum, a recession. But frankly, there's a lot of scenarios where it could be meaningfully worse.
Chamath goes on to say that insecure financial conditions have been distorting what supply and demand actually looks like. A plethora of government money has been put into the hands of the people who use it to engage in the public market. There has been a large amount of purchasing activity, which has been bolstered by an alleged endless store of money. Now that money is being removed from the equation, no one knows what real equilibrium economic growth looks like. Chamath hopes this is just the exception that proves the rule, but a gigantic amount of data tells us we need to double the rates of what is believed to be the current economic balance.
And I think what it does is ultimately it has forced the Russian endgame. And that Russian endgame is essentially the following, which is that Germany will probably be the first to capitulate, but it'll be a combination of the United States and Europe who negotiate some kind of a settlement.
They have to fold.
And the reason, well, without calling it folding, I would just say there's a settlement. And the reason the settlement is necessary is you're going to start to impact tens of millions of people's lives in an incredibly arduous way. And those people are asking their leaders to tell them why it's worth it. That's why you're seeing protests all around Europe. People have decided that this war has gotten 2 or 3 steps beyond what they thought they were getting into. and that it was shining light on a whole set of decisions that never should have been made. I think that the European system is going to be put under stress because there are really a bunch of different countries with very different incentives right now, where some countries are in desperate need of energy. Some countries can probably stave it off for a little bit longer. Other countries are so adamantly focused on their position on Russia over and above any source of energy that they may need or don't have. So I just think like this is a really good point to take a step back and realize that in all of these conflicts, sadly, whenever you have like all of these very complicated countries fighting very complicated wars, it's really important to understand what these trade-offs are, because ultimately what we're learning in Europe is that irrespective of what you morally and ethically believe is right in the Ukraine, the minute that it affects you, and Jason, you've said this, what is it, like you're only one meal away from a revolution? Is that,
Yeah, it's
is
3
that
meals
the phrase?
away.
But that's the lesson, which is that at the end of the day, it is when you're in a position of comfort, you can focus on forward and outlooking moral attributes and ethical perspectives that matter. But the minute that you are affected at home, where you cannot take care of your children or heat your house, all bets are off. And I think this just goes to show you that if you're going to sort of engage in proactive foreign policy, you need to make sure that domestically you don't have any Achilles heels. And Europe had a massive Achilles heel, which is energy.
After a conflict with Russia, Europe may have trouble obtaining oil and gas this winter. However, a new financial crisis, a liquidity crunch, could make things worse by driving up prices even further. The problem first came to light in March when a group of top traders, utilities, oil majors, and bankers sent a letter to regulators demanding contingency plans. This was brought on by market participants scrambling to hedge against future price spikes in the physical market, where a product is delivered by taking a short position. They were trying to cover their financial exposure to skyrocketing gas costs. Over the past year, as electricity, gas, and coal prices have increased, so have shorts costs. As a result of the ensuing margin calls, oil and gas majors, trading companies, and power utilities have been forced to increase their capital commitments. There is little indication, however, of whether or how soon governments in the EU will support banks or other utilities that must hedge their trading in the face of impending winter price surges. What do you guys think of Chamath's take on Europe's dire financial conditions? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.